In today's video, I'm sharing 17 ADHD hacks that has genuinely changed my life. And honestly, some of these might even help those of you who don't have ADHD. So if you're tired of the chaos and want life to feel a little bit easier, this video is just for you. Hey there, my name's Anthony and I have been a freelance photographer for over 12 years. And honestly, I'm ready for a change. And right now, just exploring what the next chapter in my life is going to be. On this channel, I share practical tips and tools for productivity and just everyday life. So if that interests you, be sure to subscribe. All right, let's get into it. Tip number one is to give everything a home and just put everything into the same place. So for me, this is things like my keys. I keep my keys next to the door. So that way, every time I'm getting ready to leave, they're right there. Every time I come in, I put them right there. Other things are my shoes. I've got an area in the closet where I can just put all my individual shoes. For the most part, I'm usually only wearing 2 pairs and then my house slippers. So my house slippers are always in the same place by my bed. And then if I'm sitting at my desk and I just want to take my shoes off, I usually just put them there. And so everything's kind of got a little place. Other things is, for instance, at my desk, I've got these IKEA drawers and every drawer has its own little purpose. One of which is I've got one that's just got my everyday sort of things for me to always access, things like my wallet, that sort of stuff. But I've also got a drawer that's just a charging drawer. So things to charge my camera battery, my Apple Watch, AA rechargeable batteries, various little things. So anything that needs to be charged, everyone in the family just goes into this little drawer. And the great thing about it too is it's just hidden. But yeah, giving everything a little home. And then another thing too is phone chargers. I've kind of got them placed all around the apartment. So I've got one at my desk. There's one by the TV. So family area. I've got one by the side of my bed. But it just kind of allows for just a place to always put your phone down. And it also stays charged. Oh, and bonus tip for the keys, going back to that, I recommend getting my keys, the key covers on mine they're all faded. I need to change them out. But I recommend getting key covers for different colors. So this is mainly just if you've got a bunch of different keys. For me, it's helpful to determine quickly if it's a key to our place or my dad's place or my mom's place. It's just nice to be able to quickly see the color and know what it goes to. So that's not necessarily everything has its own home, but just quick little tip in regards to the keys. Tip number 2 is clocks. I have clocks everywhere, and this sounds funny because I felt so embarrassed when I asked my wife if she was cool with me putting a clock in our bathroom. But I'm gonna be honest, I'm one of those that takes a while to get ready in the morning, and so for me, it's nice to be able to look up and quickly see what time it is and how long I'm taking and all that. But aside from that bathroom clock, we've also got a clock in the living room. It's really big. I can see it from across the room. And then even at night, it's just really bright and you're able to see it. But you can also control the brightness and all that. But really great. And then aside from that, we've got clocks in the kitchen, on the stove and the microwave. And then on my computer, you've got the little small clock that, comes built in. But I've also got a clock widget, mainly because it's a lot bigger for me to see. And I know it sounds silly, seeing as though I've got another clock right next to me at the desk, but on my desktop on my computer, I just find it super helpful. And then I do the same thing on my phone. Once again, same thing. There's the tiny little clock on there, but I've also got a clock widget on my phone. It just makes me a little bit more aware of time. Tip number 3 is to use a to-do app. I just find this much more useful than doing pen and paper. But if you're looking for, apps to use, you could just use something as simple as the Apple Reminders, because it's just a free app. It already comes on your iPhone and Mac. Another option is Todoist. It's another great app. I've got a few videos on my channel. The app that I am currently using is an app called AccuFlow. I'm not going to go too much into it. I also have videos on AccuFlow, but basically using a to-do app is great because, you don't have to remember it. You just write things down. There's other ways that you can like pull up tasks by adding labels and that sort of thing. But for me, I actually find that time blocking certain types of tasks within my calendar is super helpful. I use AccuFlow for this. Once again, I've got videos on AccuFlow. Todoist has a way to time block as well. It's not as advanced as AccuFlow is, but it's still great. But then once again, you can actually use reminders and the built-in calendar app on your Mac and iPhone to be able to time block tasks that are in your reminders app. So there's different ways to do it, but yes, I really recommend using a to-do app. Tip number 4 is to use a digital calendar and put everything in it. So I actually put in my routines into the calendar. So things like getting ready, showering, exercising, winding down. I like to put those into my calendar because once again, I time block, but I also have no concept of time, hence all the clocks everywhere. And so being able to visually see things on my calendar, and when I go to schedule in things like to-dos and all that, I'm able to visually see everything and the amount of at least like rough time that it's going to take for me to do things in between all my routines. So I even schedule in dinner and lunch, that sort of stuff. Another tip regarding digital calendars is to use shared calendars, especially if you've got a family. So with us, I share my calendar with my wife. She shares hers with me. It kind of just allows for us to kind of just be aware of what's going on in each of our lives without us always having to like ask each other. We also have a shared calendar for our son, so that also helps as far as like communication of things like going on with his school or whatever. Maybe he's hanging out with friends. Now for events, I actually recommend putting in addresses for every like event that you're going to. I even do it for places I go to all the time. So like my parents' houses and all that. I will still put all that in just because it allows me, if I'm on an opposite side of town and I don't necessarily know how to get to, their house, I can just easily at the tap of a button in the calendar pull up the addresses on the Maps app and then just head over there. Now I could pull it up different ways, but it just kind of helps me not have to think about it necessarily. But any place that I'm going to, always put in the address. Another thing is I will actually like every week go through my calendar and see if I've got events where I'm going places, and I will look at how much time it's going to take, and then I will put in a calendar block that just says commute to wherever I'm going. Once again, it's just a visual reminder of when I need to leave here and how long it's going to take and all that. Virtual meetings, similar to like giving addresses, anything that's a virtual meeting, I always like to make sure I include the link to, if it's like a Zoom meeting or a Google Meet, whatever it is, but having it in the calendar event just makes it a whole lot easier, because with a lot of these apps and everything, you can just click a button and it automatically joins. No need to like look through your emails and find, it just makes it so much easier. Another thing is like things like concert, you always get like the digital ticket. What I do is I actually upload the ticket to the calendar event. So that way, once I arrive, I just go to my calendar, open up the, event, and then I can just show them my ticket. I'll also put notes and utilize that quite a bit. So maybe there's something funky about the parking or whatever, like anything that I just need to remember once I get there, I will put those into the notes as well. Even if there are like other links to things, I can't think of any examples off the top of my head, but having everything within the notes area, I find it super helpful. Another thing too is I use different calendars, my personal calendar for events, and then I have different ones for other areas of my life. And the reason I do this is because it allows me to color code parts of my life. So that way, when I go to time block things in my calendar, I can basically look at my calendar and roughly know what's going on that day based on the colors. And so, for instance, events for me are orange, even commuting is orange. My son's calendar is pink. My wife's calendar is like a dark pink, purple, something like that. Anyway, color coding is super helpful if you use a lot of calendars. If you don't, you don't have to do it. And then one last tip as far as calendars go, I actually recommend using this app called In Your Face. I've got a video going over it on my channel. I'll link to it down below. But basically what it is it's an app that when the event is going to happen, it takes over your entire screen and is just, or it's much more difficult. There it is. It's much more difficult to not ignore it. Whereas like if you just got the little notification that pops up on the right hand side of your computer, you could tend to forget it. But the great thing too about this is you can like snooze it and all that, but every time it will pop up over your entire screen and remind you, hey, this is coming up. Tip number 5 is to use your contacts app fully. So for me, I like to put in everyone's full name if possible, so that way I remember their last names. I will, put in their phone numbers, obviously. I will try and add them to a group. So like maybe they're a friend or they're a family member or, whatnot. Email addresses, physical addresses, if they've got a website or like social media, I like to add those into their birthdays as well. I can forget everyone's birthday. And then if there's any sort of notes about them, maybe there's somebody I met somewhere and I just want to remember where I met them or who I met them through, I will utilize those notes. But basically the reason I do this is I'm not having to remember. So another thing is you can ask Siri to, pull things up. So I can say, hey, I'm not going to say it because I don't want to trigger it, but give me directions to so-and-so's house, or hey, such and such, when is so-and-so's birthday? Things like that. I utilize that so much. And so I also use an app on my computer called Alfred, and I can pull up people's contact info really quickly just by like their the way it's integrated. And I think you can still do that within regular Spotlight too. And then as far as the addresses go, if you are someone like me who likes to send out Christmas cards every year and that they haven't, moved or anything like that, it makes it easy to, write out everyone's address and get them the card mailed out without having to go and ask them like, hey, what's your address? So anyway, utilize the contacts app fully. Tip number 6 is to label things. Man, I bought a label maker off Amazon and I love it. It hooks up to your phone. It's got a little app and you can label things. You can add like emojis and all that to it. And it's a whole lot of fun. And so I wound up labeling things in my camera bag because a lot of the times when I'm photographing a wedding, I need to change things quickly. Another thing is I've got 2 different camera bodies and they utilize 2 different batteries. And so it just allows me to just quickly know what to grab. Just trying to think of other things. I use things like in the closet, we'll label things in the closet. We've labeled things in our bathroom. We've got like Tupperware things with like different types of things. So that way we can know what's in there basically. I've tried to label things in our refrigerator, but I haven't quite nailed down a fridge organization method that sticks with everybody in the household. So if you got tips on that, I would love to know. Leave it in the comments. Tip number 7 is to use pill containers. I'll link to the one I'm using down below. I actually didn't think I was going to utilize this too much. It was mainly just kind of, I was curious about it, but it allows me to, since I take different vitamins, kind of put them out separately and then just make sure I'm taking whatever ones I'm taking in the evening, have them separated. So if you take multiple different, vitamins or supplements, or you take ADHD medication or any medication, it just makes things a whole lot easier because you just go into this bin and whatever day it is, pull that one out and then take it for morning or evening. You get it. Tip number 8 is to use a grocery app. So I've got a video on this. I use an app called AnyList. It's great. You can share it with your family. You can yell out to Siri to add things to it. You can meal plan within there. You can store recipes. I absolutely love it. So if you are struggling with that, I would recommend checking that video out. I'll link it down below. But I also recommend for meals to use different services. So the one we use is called Every Plate, but there's like HelloFresh and I don't know what else. There's tons of them out there, but finding one and just like planning out using it for just only a few meals. I like it because it's basically just a menu and I don't have to think about, what to plan out for the family and all that. If I'm just like struggling to figure out and I've just been making the same thing over and over, using a service like that makes things a little bit easier. That way you're not having to think about, what to meal plan. Tip number 9 is to use a dry erase calendar. I probably should have put this right after the calendar one, but it's whatever. But I use a dry erase calendar and I keep it next to my desk area because it's the place where I can always see it. But I just use it to put important events on there and just kind of have this constant visual reminder of what is going on each month. And so I will also color coordinate the events on there based on the similar colors that I use for my digital calendar. Oh, and similarly related to dry erase and the meals, we have one that we put on our fridge for meals. So once we've planned out what meals we're going to be having throughout the week, we will go and put those onto the dry erase magnet thing on our fridge. I'll try and find the one that we use and link it down below, but if not, you can just Google search them and at least on Amazon or something like that. Tip number 10 is to do mini chores if you work from home, and not a whole bunch like mini, but tiny mini. But what I'll do is whenever I go to take a break, I'll do something else. So sometimes it is taking the dishes out of the dishwasher or putting dishes into the dishwasher, cleaning out the cat's litter box, refilling the things around the house, cleaning the toilet. I won't schedule big chores like clean the bathroom. That just sounds like too much, but I'll do a little bit here and there. But I like doing that because 1, I'm taking a break, but also 2, I'm being productive still. Tip number 11 is to hang as much of your clothes up to prevent from having to fold. I wound up one day realizing, why am I always folding my clothes? Because I don't have to, and I hate doing it. I would just dread having to take the clothes out of the dryer and go fold them and put them into drawers. One day I was like, I could just buy extra hangers and just hang everything up. So I hang up all my t-shirts and regular shirts and then my jeans. And then the one thing I will fold are my socks because I just want to be able to grab a pair out. But even underwear and things like that, I just throw it in. I don't even fold. I don't even care. It's no one's gonna see it, but maybe that's the guy in me. And then related to clothes, I, with the grace and permission of my wife, just began to throw my dirty clothes into a pile in our closet. I think one day I want to maybe try and find a clear laundry basket for myself. But the reason I enjoy doing it is because I can visually see when I need to do my laundry. Whereas before I would get to where I'm like, oh, I don't have this or I don't have that. And I would just wind up having to wear dirty socks because I didn't have any more socks. Now, once again, I am privileged in the fact that my wife understands my struggles and she's okay with it unless it's too much or smells. I know TMI. That has happened a few times, but for the most part, it's really been very helpful for me to kind of just see the pile and just embrace the fact that I'm just throwing the dirty clothes on a pile. Tip number 12 is to use a password manager app. The one that I use is called 1Password, and the reason I like it is because it generates passwords for you, so they're always strong and secure. I don't ever have to remember any. In fact, I don't remember hardly any of the passwords for any site. It's just this long string of characters. But yeah, it just makes going to a website because it just automatically fills it in for you. Another great thing about it is you can share it. So me and my wife share, they call it vaults, but we've got a shared vault for things related to the family. So that way neither of us are having to ask each other for the password and doing typing texting it to each other. But I also use it to store important documents and things like that. It just makes things a whole lot easier, a little bit safer. Tip number 13, I'm not doing it right now, and I only do it when like I need to move around and focus, but that is to use a sit-stand desk. The one that I wound up getting, I wound up just using the same tabletop that I had and just finding the actual legs, and then I just wound up drilling holes and doing it that way. I'll link to the one I've got down below, but I enjoy it because I can just, if I'm just feeling like really antsy and I need to focus, I can put it to stand and then I can just like move around while I'm working. It kind of just helps keep my mind from going crazy. It gives me something else to focus on. I guess it's a form of like fidgeting. Number 14 is to get an Apple Watch. I enjoy using my Apple Watch because I just have it always. I'm not wearing it right now because it's charging. Mine's old and it doesn't really hold much of a charge. But important notifications, I'm really particular about the notifications that go to it. But for the most part, it's like text messages or calendar events, and I got it for like fitness things. But it's also nice too for going to do grocery shopping, because the app that I mentioned earlier, AnyList, it has Apple Watch app, and so I can just go through the store and just like check things off that way without having to pull up my phone all the time. And then one tip that I have if you are a wedding photographer is to put in your wedding's timeline, and that way it will automatically like send you a notification when like toasts are coming up or, you know, whatever is going on at the wedding day. So yeah, that's a nice little tip for you wedding photographers, or I guess even like wedding planners. All right, tip number 15 is AirPods Pro. I love these things so much. So one of the things that I'll do is, because I hate doing, you know, little chores, so going back to like the mini chores thing, I will listen to something even though it's like something really quick. Even if I'm like gonna take the trash out, maybe it takes like a minute, you know, but to make it better for myself, I will put in a podcast, and so I will still listen to things. And then when I'm talking with people on the phone, I use them that way. A lot of the times I will go for a walk if the weather's nice and just do a walk. So I am walking, getting in my steps, and talking with people. I really enjoy those things. And then noise canceling is great, like especially when I need it. So if I'm doing some work, but my son is out here playing video games and screaming, I can just put in, or just change it to noise canceling. But another thing too is like I can find myself getting overly stimulated really easily. And so things like waiting in the doctor's office, you know, that is one of the most like times where I get the most sensitive, because a lot of the times it's like people they'll just be watching TikToks or something like really, really loud. And then you got all these different noises going on, and it's just very overstimulating for me. And so I only recently started doing this, but just putting noise canceling on. It also has adaptive transparency or something like that. So meaning like it'll mostly be noise canceling, but if someone's talking to you or something like that, it'll like slowly kind of ease them into there, if that makes sense. But yeah, AirPods Pro, chef's kiss, love them. All right, we're almost towards the end. Tip number 16 is to find things to automate. So things like everything has its own home, that's kind of like a form of automation, as long as you like get in the habit of doing it. Like for me, my keys always go in the same place, so I kind of feel like that's just an automated version of me in my life. But I would recommend starting with the Shortcuts app. It's free on your iPhone and your Mac. Honestly, most of the shortcuts that I've made for myself are super simple, but there's also a gallery that kind of gives you an idea of like pre-made stuff. A lot of the apps now are starting to like kind of build in their own as well, but it's like, you know, creating little simple steps for yourself. One of the things that I wound up making for myself, I was seeing this one therapist, and every time I arrived, like he wanted me to text him to let him know I got there. So what I wound up doing was creating an automation that when I got to that location, it just automatically sent him a text message letting him know I was there. And so I didn't have to think about doing it or remembering to do it every single time. So it's like kind of like something you can do. Some more advanced things that you can do is, like, for me, I use an app called Keyboard Maestro. And one of the things that I've made for myself is every time I go to sit down to record a YouTube video, I will plug in my camera, and then it will trigger the recording software that I use, Camtasia, to open up. And then it will also turn off the air filter that we have in our apartment and adjust the lights, and turn on Do Not Disturb on my phone and devices. And then when I unplug that camera cable from my computer, it will prompt Camtasia it'll pull up the save dialog box. That way I remember to save it. It will turn the air filter back on and then turn off Do Not Disturb. I'm trying to think of other things. Another thing too is, like, I've got complication on my Apple Watch that when I tap it, it will turn on the sleep Do Not Disturb. And that will also trigger all of the lights in the house to go off at the same time, things like that. So yeah, just kind of find things to automate. It doesn't have to be crazy, but think of things that maybe would make your life a little bit easier and see if there's a way that you can automate it. All right, last one, tip number 17 is smart home stuff. That's what I've titled it. So kind of it's related to the previous one about automating things. So having smart home stuff, it allows you to do things like turn off the lights when you're going to bed, or turn them on if you're coming home, at night, change the colors, the temperature of the lights, the brightness, all that. That I also find helpful because sometimes I'm just very sensitive to light as well. And so being able to just easily pull up my phone and just like change things. You can create scenes. I also really enjoy our robot vacuum cleaner. We've got a Roomba. It makes things a little bit easier. You can even automate it to do it at certain times or when you leave. And then smart plugs too. So like the air filter that I have turn on and off with that other automation I was talking about, that's actually just a regular air filter connected to a smart plug. So it kind of turns dumb things smart. I don't know. But yeah, I recommend checking out smart home stuff. That's it for me today. If you've got any other videos, anything you want me to expand on, let me know in the comments as well. Comments is the place to be. But I hope you are having a great day. I hope something in this video is going to make your life a little bit easier. And if you want more videos like this in the future, don't forget to subscribe. Thank you for your time, for watching this. I always appreciate it. Yeah, love y'all. Take care. Bye.